Thank you for joining For Our Special Kids, where we openly and honestly discuss the magic and the mess of raising a child with special needs. We are thrilled to have you here and hope this time provides you with some wonder and wisdom. I'm your host, Jennifer Lansing. Let's get started. What a fun conversation you are about to hear between my friend Jolena and me. We talk about her experiences as a very open child and how her deceased great-grandmother came to visit her at bedtime. She opens up about how parents can better support their children if they are expressing that they're seeing spirits. We look at the power of words and intention and so many other things. So you'll certainly walk away with new ways to communicate with your children as a result of listening to this episode. Before we do jump into it, I did want to once again encourage moms of medically complex children to complete the Apricity Hope Project's application for the retreat I'll be speaking at in September. We have started planning the content, and we're really looking forward to working with you guys during this time. We'll be doing art therapy and yoga and sessions on finding joy and peace and love, better connection with yourself, meditation, breath work, and so much more. So my mom has even agreed to come and cook us some yummy meals. So yay, Mom. If you like the episode that we did called What's It Like? It was episode 21 from August of 2022. Then you'll get to meet her too. Remember, she used to be a pediatric hospice nurse, so she's pretty amazing. Anywhoots, head over to apricityhope.org, click Meet AHP, click Events, and then you can complete your application. And I'm so excited to see you there. One last thing, I was interviewed last week on Intuition Talks podcast. It was a really fun chat with Kristen. If you haven't gone over there to check their podcast out, please do. It's on all of your listening platforms. And once again, please, if you want to love, like, whatever, us, follow us, subscribe. I don't know what the right words are, but anytime you can give a review for any of our podcasts, it really helps other people find us. All right, on to the show. I'm so excited to introduce you to my guest today. She has been a friend of mine for a little over 2 years, and I'm just blessed to have her in my life. And so I'm thrilled that you guys get to meet her and feel her wonderful energy and spirit. So let me introduce you to Jolena. Jolena Long is a mother of 3, a medium, a past life regression facilitator, and a stained glass spirit artist. Her days are filled with finding new ways to create connections through creation. This means she creates connections with people and with things, all focused on enhancing the beauty within our world. As someone who has interacted with spirits from a very young age, Jolena is deeply passionate about helping others tap into their connection to the other side, whatever that means for them. She likes to think of herself as a creator of content, different from what we associate with a content creator. Jolena is on this earth to create a life of which the contents are truly rich and beautiful for herself and those whom she interacts with. In her spare time, she volunteers with CDA ACT, which is an organization that creates an opportunity for teens and adults with special needs to be a part of a fully produced musical theater production. So fun. I can't wait to dive into that. That's not even what we're supposed to be talking about today. So Jolena, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thank you, Jen. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
Well, it's so fun. Everyone's just going to love you. So I mentioned we've been friends for 2 years or so, and I just think the amount of ability you have is just incredible as a medium. And I throw in psychic there. I know you didn't, but you just did a reading for me yesterday. And it was like, oh no, there were some psychic hits on there. So throw that in for you. But from our chats, you've told me that you were very open as a child. Can you tell us a little bit more about what being open means to you and how that manifested for you when you were a child?
Yeah. To me, I think that being open, first of all, it's never like an open or a closed. I think there's many layers to being open. But to me, it just means the ability to perceive things that are happening outside of just our physical plane. If we're standing there in front of each other and I drop a rock on my toe, you're perceiving that in a very physical way.
Sure.
But then we're stepping it up in a next level when we can perceive like emotions of people. And, the verbiage that we're most familiar with is an empath, somebody who can sense other people's emotions. But then it can go even further than that, where you are able to perceive energies sometimes of deceased people whose bodies are no longer with us, but their spirit, their essence is still very much present. And so to be wide open in the way that I experienced as a child, that meant for me that I was able to hear and see spirits. And that started at a really young age, really. And then around 7 or 8 is the really the earliest memory that I have of seeing spirits.
Okay. So for everyone that's listening and they're like, oh my God. So, okay. So you saw spirits as a little child. What,
Yeah.
I mean, what did that look like? Who did you see? Do you remember who you saw first?
So I was thinking about this earlier today, actually, in preparation for this, thinking about the very first one that I saw. I did see some what I would call kind of random spirits probably before this. However, I think that this was the most impactful and the first time that I, as a child, realized who it was that I was seeing. So when I was about 7 or 8, I was seeing a spirit in my room at night. And it was never anything scary to me. I would just be laying in bed and I would look up and I'd see this woman at my door as I fell asleep. And I think I had like a healthy sense of like, what is that? That's not normally there.
Right.
Um, but I didn't ever really fearful of it. And I did not know who it was initially. And then one day I was looking through a photo album with my mom and I came across a picture of me as like, I think I was around 2.5 and I was sitting on a tractor in a field. And I said, Mom, where was I? Because I had no clue. And she said, You were at your great grandma's funeral. And something about this picture just struck me. And somehow I knew in that moment that that was my great grandmother that I was seeing in my room at night. And that's one of those things like you can't really explain how you know, just like
Uh-huh.
you can't really explain what it is that you're seeing standing in your door when you're only 7. But I just knew that that was my great grandma.
I just got shivers. Yeah, I just got shivers. I mean, that's really cool. The knowing, the claircognizance there is just, yes, you knew.
hmm Yeah, absolutely. And as I've grown, I've had such a strong connection with her, even though she died when I was 2.5. She actually wrote a memoir. So in my adult life, I was able to read her memoir. And I've realized since then we have so much in common. I've done many different meditations and things like that where she's come through and we've been able to interact, just really incredible stuff. But reading the memoir, that physical proof of like, here is who you are, and here are all the ways that we are alike that really connect us beyond this additional way in which like I was seeing you as a child.
Wow.
Yeah, being able to read all of that was it kind of just ingrained it even further that really was who was there with me.
Well, and what a sweet thing for her to do. Nighttime is such a cuddly, warm time for most families. At least for me, I love cuddling with Teal before she goes to sleep, and just to think that she's checking in on you and wishing you good dreams, or maybe even waiting for you to go into dreams so that you could go with her.
I know that is such a beautiful thought. In a sense, like you hear a lot about kids having experiences of being afraid at night, like seeing
Mm-hmm.
things or hearing things or just thinking something is there. And I'm really lucky to have had an experience like that that kind of propelled me into this. Someone came through that made me feel comforted. And
Yeah.
I feel really, really blessed to have that has been my experience.
So that wasn't how it always was, because I do know from our conversations that you then, and open and close is a hard word. I want to almost say like shut it down or kind of pushed it down. So walk me through what happened from when you were 7 and 8, having those memories and feeling and wonderful things, and then to where you are today, because I know there was a pretty big transition there.
So I never spoke about this to anybody when I was a child. It wasn't like it was never there was never any messaging from my parents that it would have been wrong or frowned upon. However, it was not something that I was familiar with. It wasn't something that was talked about. So I never talked about it to anybody. And then time went on and I got into my teenage years. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, I can talk to my friends about this. I can have conversations with people about this now. And that is when I started to kind of open up even more beyond just seeing my great grandma. I was opening myself up a lot more. And with that comes contact with other spirits that sometimes, you as a little baby medium aren't really ready for. So as I got into my teens and then into my early 20s, I was just walking around this world wide open, having really no clue about what to do to kind of continue to be in control of that instead of it just happening to me. And so I did have some experiences that made me fearful of it. And more so, I wasn't afraid of what I was seeing. I was more so afraid of not being able to stay in control of it. There were many times where I did just completely shut it down and say, you know what? Nope, I can't see you right now. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to help you because I really always believed that if they were coming to me, I was supposed to be helping with something. And there was an experience where, I was kind of trying to get practice and a friend had asked me to read her. And when I did that, I started connecting with this man who was not connected to her. It was like I opened the floodgates and things just started coming through, right?
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly this man was coming through and I was seeing a lot of imagery and things like that that I just was not comfortable with. And again, back to my I'm here to help. Well, I wasn't sure how to help him. And I did not, like I said, I didn't talk to anybody really about this. I had no mentor. I wasn't well versed in exactly what to do to set boundaries for myself or anything like that. So when he was coming through and I wasn't able to help, I kind of just threw my hands up and I said, "Well, sorry, I can't help you. Go away.
Right.
Come come again another day, or
Yeah.
don't. That'd be fine too." So I completely shut it down again. And then fast forward when I was 27, I lost my dad suddenly, very suddenly. And I remember feeling like, okay, I saw my great grandmother and she was passed. Does that mean that I can see my dad? And I had this really palpable fear that if I did try to contact him in that way, if I did try to see him, to speak with him, and it didn't work, that everything that I believed was wrong.
Wow.
And so I continued to be really afraid of it, afraid of the possibility that what I had experienced as a child wasn't true. And so it took a lot of like deep work to finally say, you know what? No, I have this ability. I really believe that there's a reason that I do. I should be using it. It was after he passed away. My middle daughter was only 4 months when he passed. And then when she was getting a little bit older, I was noticing that she would be in her room and she would be like laughing and she would be playing with something that I couldn't see.
Mm-hmm.
A toy would move across the floor and she would laugh. I mean, it was like really like getting into some really physical things.
Wow.
Again, I just knew. I was like, that's my dad. I mean, he was a jokester. He loved to make people laugh. And so when she started to kind of show signs of being able to see him, I was like, okay, I'm on board.
Yeah.
Talk to me. And so I started to be more proactive in opening up. I seeked out mentors that could help me learn the right way to do it, in a way that's going to make me feel safe, in a way that's going to make me really feel like I am helping.
So let's go back to, well, okay, episode 46. So a couple of weeks ago, I believe, I interviewed Marin and she talked about raising spiritual children and how she uses words with her children to help them and to give them guidance and to help them feel safe and such. So you didn't have that. So now looking back, and I'm sure you probably talk about this with your kids now, or I guess that's an assumption, but why do you think it's so important looking back at your experience as to why parents can play such a huge role. Like, why is it so important for us to have these conversations with our kids, whether they're even expressing it like you didn't, whether or not they're expressing it or not?
Research shows that a lot of kids up to the age of about 5 do experience things. They are wide open. They come into this world wide open. So you can imagine how isolating it might feel if you're having these experiences, but nobody's ever talking about what it means and what to do about it, and how to go into those situations not being fearful but standing in your power. We talk a lot to our children, I think, in this day and age, which is, it's wonderful, I love it, but we talk a lot about like bodily autonomy, and I think that it's really important to also talk about emotional autonomy and spiritual autonomy, and teaching our kids that you get to decide whether or not you feel comfortable, and then you get to make a decision about whether that thing continues or not.
We set physical boundaries. We tell them it's okay not to hug someone if you don't want to hug someone. It's okay to say stop. I remember getting tickled as a child and saying stop, please, and they didn't stop. And that
Mm-hmm.
has changed a lot. But what a great thing to talk about emotional autonomy and spiritual autonomy. Wow, so good. Can you give me some examples? I mean, I think of like just setting boundaries, but what does that mean when you, as a child, what would you have them do to set a boundary that helps them on a spiritual side?
So the biggest thing that I've tried with my own kids is talking about these experiences, really, because that opens up a line of communication that might otherwise not be there. So just being able to set that example of, I didn't always do this. It was when I started to open back up and become comfortable in my own skin with it. But I will talk about it. I will share my experiences of, say, seeing my grandmother as a child. So opening up that line of communication, because without that, there's never any conversation. So that, and also, I think a big one is using our words to set intention from a really young age. Um, I with my son recently, and I do this with all of my kids, but when they need something and they don't know how to solve it for themselves, I like to try to teach them what to do, what they can say, the actions that they can take to affect their situation. And a lot of that is with their words. And so with my son, he's been worried about bad dreams lately. So I make up bad dream spells, and we'll say those before we go to bed. But just giving him, knowing, letting him know that the power is within him. He decides, like, okay, bad dreams are not welcome here. Letting them understand that they have that power is a huge one, I think, personally.
I think all parents are now wondering what your bad dream spells are.
Oh, you want me to tell you?
Yes.
So the one we've been using lately is bad dreams can't come near, only good dreams welcome here.
Oh. Well,
Yeah.
and from a witch perspective, spells have power because words have power.
Exactly. And it doesn't matter what we call it. We could call it a spell, we could call it an intention, we can call it a prayer. I mean, it can be anything. But really, it's just solidifying that, like, I have a voice, your kids have a voice, and they get to use that. They get to decide what their intention is, and they get to put it out into the world. And I think that that sets a great stage for, if they do have experiences perceiving spirits. Sometimes it can be scary. Sometimes the spirit is not scary at all, but it's how they come to us that can be scary. So I think that just setting the stage of, like, okay, if that's scary, you get to decide, I don't want to see that. You have to go now. Things like that.
I don't see things outside of my person. Like, so I can see images, but I'm not like you. I don't have that. I don't see them outside of me. And it has happened once in my life. And I can still remember like every detail of it. I remember where I was. I remember who I had been with. I remember what the person looked like. I mean, and it scared the crap out of me. So I
Hmm.
can't even imagine being a child and having something like that happen. Now, I haven't really talked about the whole connection. Like, so I know that Teal sees spirits. I have a feeling she is like you. She sees them because there are
Hmm.
times when I know she's looking behind the rocking chair. I know she's interacting with somebody. Uh,
Hmm.
I try to honor that. And I do use my words as well, but, and I've talked about this a little bit on the show, is I know she's telepathic as well. So I know she can hear me telling them to go away, but
Hmm.
I also have been starting now to say it out loud so that she also realizes that you can do it in your mind, but you can also do it out loud. Putting it into physical form in a word actually has even more power than just thinking it. But if you have a child that is nonverbal, they can also just think it. And that works as well because the intention is behind there.
Absolutely. And what I love about it is you give them these tools and then they can decide how to use it and how what works best for them. And absolutely, it does not have to be audible to the rest of the world for it to be powerful. My son, he's decided that, we can say it 3 times and that's it. If we say it more than that, then you're going to mess it up. So, he has he
He's got
has
his
his own
process.
rules about it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But again, it gives more power to him.
Right. He's taking control of it, which is really the whole point. He can make up his own rules. I've gifted him this tool and then he gets to decide how he uses it.
You were going to give me an example before I interrupted you.
Oh, I was saying that one night I said, "Why don't you teach it to your stuffed animal?" And he said, "No, I can't because you and I have already said it 3 times." And so he said, "I'll do it again. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll teach my stuffed animal tomorrow." I said, "Okay."
Okay. And how's it working?
It's working great. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he tells me I've had no bad dreams. And he's a kid who does, I mean, before that he did have quite a few bad dreams and he wouldn't want to talk about it. I would say, "Well, what was your dream about? Do you want to tell me about it?" And he'd say, "No, it's too bad. I don't want to say it out loud." And then sometimes he would share, and my version of so bad is different from this 6 year old's version of so bad. But putting that control in his hands has really helped him. He's
Mm-hmm.
my telepathic child also. I think maybe we've talked about that, but he will read my mind literally in the silliest of ways. Like I can think to myself, "I really want a sparkling water right now." And then like he'll appear with a sparkling water. I mean, it's like silly stuff like that.
So that's stuff though that I think all of us as parents, it's not silly because if you honor that, then it gives it more power and it if you just brush it off and you don't even say, I mean, did you ask him how did you know that I wanted what did he say?
I did. He said it just came to my mind. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, "Okay, awesome. I love that."
Yes. Did you connect it with I had just thought about it?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was
Okay.
immediate. I was out in the garage. I do stained glass out in the garage
Mm-hmm.
most of the time during the warmer months. And I was out there and I had gloves on, because I'm working. And so I couldn't just go to the fridge myself. We have a
Mm-hmm.
fridge out in the garage. So I couldn't just go grab it myself. And so I said, "Man, I really just need a sparkling water right now." And he came out from inside the house, came into the garage, went to the fridge, grabbed it for me, and said, "Here, mom." And I said, "How did you know I wanted that?" And he said, "I
Yeah.
don't know. It just popped into my head."
That's
I
awesome. So
said, "You're
yeah.
amazing."
So Teal has these buddies at school that adore her and they're in 5th grade and Teal's in 1st grade and they give her stuffed animals and I mean she comes home with presents all the time from these two amazing little girls and I just had a knowing that one of them had a knowing like she was talking with Teal. I just
Mhm.
knew that she was telepathically communicating with Teal and so I asked her mom. I said, "Is she telepathic?" Now, of course, I don't think that that's weird to have those conversations, but of course, she was a little bit like, "What?" And then I gave her some examples. I said, "Are there times when she just knows something that you've been thinking? Or
Mhm.
is there just a time that she acts upon something that you maybe needed?" And she said, "Well, yeah, that happens all the time." And I said, she's most likely telepathic because you're thinking it and she's hearing it and
Ah,
she's acting on it. And I said, the reason I'm saying that is because she has such a beautiful connection with Teal. I said,
yeah.
most people that have these really intense connections with my daughter are telepathic.
Hmm.
I mean, she was just blown away. And I said, so, the next time it happens that your daughter happens to read your mind per se, honor it and tell her that you really think that's cool. And she, I
Was
may,
she
I,
just
yeah.
stunned?
Oh my God. I probably ruined the whole family. But at the same time, if we don't, like you said, if we don't talk about it, it doesn't become normal. And I wouldn't ever want some ability like that to be scary for someone like it was for you. And then you had to shut it off and then you had to work to get it back again and to feel
Yeah.
comfortable with it again. So let's look at protection. Now, I know a lot of people have different concepts of, do you actually have to protect yourself? Do you actually have to
Hmm.
protect your kids? Is it drawing it in? Are you manifesting it because you're saying you need protection? What are your thoughts on that? And how have you worked that in with your children?
So I know that different people have very different ideas of what is necessary as far as protection goes. I like to think that at this point in my life, I have really ingrained that protection into who I am. I have a very clear boundary at this point of what I'm capable of giving, especially right now in my life because I have kids, right? I can't just walk around solving all the spirits problems, right?
Right.
Again, it's about the power of what you say and whether it's through your words or telepathically. But my biggest form of protection is saying, I can't do that right now. Or right now I'm with my kid. And really quick, before going into something that I really want to be present for, saying to whoever's listening, this is what I'm doing right now. I'm busy right now. Kind of like putting a
Do not disturb sign.
yeah, exactly. I always go into everything that I do, whether it be a regression session, a mediumship session. I always go into it with the intention, and I say this out loud or in my mind, but I'll say, whatever comes through, let it be something to help this person. Because that's why I do this work. I literally can't think of any reason why I would do it if it was not to help facilitate healing, help facilitate people being able to live in a way that's really authentic to who they are and what they're meant to do in this world. So that's my biggest thing, and I think that that has to do with protection. I'm saying I'm clearly stating before going into any of that work that whatever comes through, whatever happens, whatever messages, they are coming through in order to help this person.
Right.
I didn't really answer your question, sorry, about how that works with the kids.
But you're modeling it.
Modeling it for sure. Things like doing the bad dream spell, or my daughter had really bad night terrors when she was younger. And kind of the same thing. We would always go to bedtime setting that intention of, I'm not available for anything scary tonight. I don't want to see it. I don't want to hear it, that kind of thing.
Right.
And just modeling that for them and then encouraging them to use their voice.
As you were talking about, I'm not available right now, or this is my time with my children, or no, do not disturb. Okay. All of those things are really good for all of us to say to other people as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hello, do not disturb. I'm
Uh-huh.
not available right now. There's nothing wrong with saying that to our physical people as
Oh, that's
well.
so true. And I'm probably better at saying it to spirit than I am living people, honestly.
Yes. But it's a really good reminder for all of us that it's all right to have a do not disturb sign with other people.
Absolutely. We only have so much to give. And if we're constantly giving our energy out, then we have nothing left. And
Right.
that goes for real people in our real physical world or spirit.
Okay. Actually, I have to give you some shout out. So you did a reading for me yesterday. One of the big messages was to play,
Mm-hmm.
to you actually, I'll kind of give some more information. So you saw me focusing on the cracks of a sidewalk and not looking up at the big picture and getting caught in the nitty gritty. And that's keeping you away from the big messages. One of the big messages you need to hear, Jen, is that you need to play more.
Mm-hmm.
And I just have to thank you because I played more with Teal yesterday. The dishes weren't
Oh.
done. I needed to sweep because there was a whole mess that had happened. I knew that I wanted to be on my phone to connect with Alex because he's traveling. And I I just played. I played more.
Mhm.
We got different toys out. We did make believe. It was more just playful. And I really want to thank you for that. And that was healing for me. That was the message that I needed to hear. And so you're not just talking about it, Jolena, you're living it and you gave it to me yesterday. So I really just want to thank you for that. And I know
Oh.
Teal definitely connected more with that as well. And, as I'm talking, she then gave me a healing last night before bed. I just realized that. And I'm wondering if it's because she was more
Oh.
connected to me.
Yeah, she was more able to like scan your energy and see what it is that
Yeah.
you needed.
Yeah, she totally did. It kind of freaked me out a little bit. I was like, yep.
Ah!
She knew where I have some weird pain that's coming in and I don't know what it's from. And she went right to it yesterday with her hands and like
Wow.
swiped it away and like opened her arms and hugged me and then let me go and then swiped it away again. And it wasn't like a swatting swipe. It was like a no, very intentional pulling something away. So thank you for
Oh,
that because I think when we play more with our children, we're energetically connecting with them.
absolutely.
And then they're better able to show their true powers and show what they have because they're connected. So thank you for that. Just
Oh, I'm so glad. She is such magic. She really is. I
she
love
is
that.
magic. She is
Yeah.
magic. So, would you talk with me a little bit about this incredible community musical theater stuff that you're doing? I know it's completely diverging, but I think it would be so cool for people to hear what you're doing because I didn't even know it was an option. I didn't even know something like this was happening.
Oh man, it's so incredible. So I volunteer with an organization called CDA Act. And I actually, my very first job out of high school was working for a theater similar to this, whose mission is really to open up an opportunity for young adults and teenagers to be part of theater in a way that is, not sparing any cost. There's nothing that is less than about this theater than if a kid or a young adult were to go to any other community theater. It gives young adults and teenagers the opportunity to be part of theater in a fully produced show. I volunteer as a shadow actor. And what that means is that they pair me with one of the actors and I support them in whatever way that they need. Sometimes that is literally standing behind them as their shadow, reminding them that they can do it. The shadow actors are all on book, so we have a script with us at all times. If a line gets dropped for our own actor or really any of the cast, in this last production, we did Frozen the musical. One of my roles was literally to just run up behind this amazing actress who she has braces on her legs and she walks with a walker, but she was like, I can take a couple steps by myself. And she really wanted to do that on stage. And so my whole role there was just to stand there behind her, hold her walker so she could take a couple steps and then push her walker towards her when she was ready to grab it again.
I'm crying because it's just what a beautiful gift. Oh, Jolena. Okay, sorry.
It's it is one of the most incredible things that I've ever been a part of. When our family moved to Coeur d'Alene, I reached out to this theater actually for my teenager. It's such a wonderful way to give your time. It's such a wonderful way to give connection. So I actually took my teenager to the meeting to be a shadow actor, thinking myself, I don't have the time I can't do that. I can't go to rehearsals 3 nights a week and be, give my time like that. I don't have the time. I have kids. Well, I went and I couldn't leave. I was just kind of like, okay, nope, this is where I'm meant to be. I have to stay. This is our second year now being involved with CDA Act, and we just absolutely love it. My oldest child and I do it together and we've made such wonderful connections to community members of all abilities. And it's really, truly incredible. And like I said before, it spares no expense. I mean, they're mic'd, we have a costumer on a huge stage in a theater with hundreds of people. And I mean, we just about sell out the theater every night. It's incredible.
Oh, what a gift. I love it. I can put the information so that if people want to look up your specific theater they can. But this is happening around the country, around the world, I'm
Yeah,
sure. I mean, this is happening. So if you have a young adult or a teenager that wants to be involved in theater, goodness gracious, look this up because it is possible.
please do, because we've had the one in my town for a few years, and the person who originally started it moved to a city about 30 minutes away, and she started another one there. It's wonderful. We're hearing about it pop up like more and more all over the country. So definitely look it up because it might be a resource that you don't even realize is there.
Right. Ugh, so much fun. Okay.
Hmm.
Jolena, what are one or two things that you really want to, or you hope that parents are walking away with, whether or not they have a child with special needs or not? But
Hmm.
what are one or two things that you really hope that parents walk away with?
I think that one big thing is that piece about modeling for our children, letting them know that we feel things, we see things, and whether that be on a metaphysical plane or not. But I think it's just so important to model for our kids how to be prepared for this world. And a lot of that has to do with letting your kids see when you're struggling, letting your kids see when you're feeling immense joy, whatever that may be. Maybe it's that you talk to dead people, whatever that is,
Yeah,
share that with them because otherwise they don't know that it's happening.
right.
And that's such a gift you can give them.
Yeah, as you were talking, I realized I don't know if Teal knows that I do readings.
Well, I'm sure she
I know.
does,
Well, I mean,
whether or not
exactly.
you've told
Okay,
her.
that's a really good point. Okay,
Yeah.
you're like, hello, she's Teal.
Yeah.
She's the reason you're doing readings, Jen. But
Right.
thank you for that. Thank you. Teal's probably in the other room, like rolling her eyes right now. She's like, oh, my mother.
Right.
But
Like you
I,
underestimated
yeah,
me.
exactly. But my mom talks about flybys. And
Mm.
she will say, "Oh yeah, grandma." She refers to it's Teal's great grandmother and it's my grandmother, but she'll say, "Oh yeah, grandma just did a flyby," or she's been doing
Oh,
more flybys. And so it doesn't have to be all, "Oh, I just saw grandmother."
no.
And my mom doesn't see her, she just feels her. And
Hmm.
so she'll just say, "Oh, yeah, grandma just did a flyby." So that's a
Yeah,
fun way to use it as well, just a lighter way of talking about it. But I think you're so right.
absolutely. And I think just never stop talking about people who have passed on in your
Yes.
kids' lives because I think it's really powerful from a young age for them to realize that that connection is still there. And if they wanted to engage with it, they can. If we never talk about it, then they don't know.
No.
Yeah. Unless they do, unless they're seeing spirits in their bedroom at night.
Right. But then they need to have an outlet to talk about it too.
Yes, absolutely.
And then not freaking out on them as an adult if they do share something like that.
Exactly. I don't know if you've ever seen, and this is not a plug for the show because I haven't seen it all, but there's a show called Psychic Kids. Have you ever seen that?
Oh, no.
So again, not plugging the show because I've only seen one episode. However, the very first episode, there is this little girl who sees spirits in her house and she's terrified of it. And the whole premise of this show is that they're pairing mediums with kids who are seeing things. And it's giving the children like a mentor from a really young age. And in the specific episode that I watched, I got to see this little girl be given the opportunity to have a mentor when she was only, I think, around like 8 years old. And I'm thinking, oh my, I mean, I cried because I was like,
Yeah.
if I would have had that, if I would have had somebody saying to me, like, this is how you protect yourself, this is how you feel safe. She taught her how to ground, she taught her how to kind of create a protection bubble over herself. And I was just, I mean, like, again, I cried because I was like, that's such an incredible gift that that little girl has. And she was so confident at the end of it. So yeah, I'll have to watch more. I've heard that it's not always great. The pairings of the kids and the mediums are not always great, but I think just like the premise of that, allowing the kids to have a mentor, wow, that's pretty incredible.
I think we need to bring one of the producers on from that show to do an interview.
Yeah,
Shout out if anyone knows anyone that does works on psychic kids, please send them my way. Oh my gosh, so cool.
I know. Can you imagine going and being a mentor for like a little little kid who is seeing spirits and needs to understand what's going on.
Well, that sounds like what you should be doing. I'm not skilled enough to do that, but
Oh,
whoa.
yeah. If anyone has any psychic kids, let me know.
Oh my goodness, absolutely. So,
Yeah.
Jolena, how can people find you?
I have a website. It's called Makewell Alchemy, MAKEWELL alchemy.com. And then you can find my stained glass works. We didn't talk a whole lot about that, but you can find
No.
my stained glass at Jolie May Art Co. on Etsy is where I have my shop. So
And that's Joliemae, correct?
yes.
Yes. Okay, let's talk about that really quick, just because it's really cool. I have one of your amazing stained glasses in my car, and it just makes me so happy. So, talk with me about Spirit Art stained glass.
If you're not familiar with, I know you are, Jen, but if the listeners aren't familiar with what spirit art is, it's essentially channeled art. So what I do is when I go into a spirit art session, I am connecting. So say it was you, Jen, I'm connecting with you, and then I'm asking your spirit team to come in. And I'm saying, okay, tell me about what Jen needs. Tell me about kind of what she might be struggling with. Tell me about some guides that are around her, helping her through this lifetime. And throughout that session, throughout that connection, I end up drawing up a stained glass pattern. And then from that, I actually create the stained glass and I mail it off to you so that you can hang it in your home. Along with that, I give an explanation of the reading that I did, what messages came through from your spirit team. And what I love about it is, first of all, stained glass is such a beautiful art. I love how it plays with the light in the room. So I feel like it's almost like a living art in some way because it's constantly changing.
Yeah.
But it's like a visual reminder of whatever it is that your specific spirit team want you to be thinking about or want to encourage you with.
Will you do one for Teal? I'll go to Etsy and
Yes,
do it. Cause I mean,
yes.
oh, I can't even imagine what you would see for her. Okay. I'll send you money.
Okay, okay.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Okay. We'll put all of that information in the show notes so people can find you. Just incredible. I hope you guys all just feel the joy that Jolena has because I was so excited to have you on here and just you're such a beautiful person. So thank you. Thank you. I have
Oh,
one question for you that we end all of our episodes with, and that is what is one word you would use to describe a child with special needs?
oh man, it's hard to say just one word, but I think that I'll choose teacher.
Hmm.
I think that they are teachers
Yeah.
in so many ways.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been such a pleasure.
You too, Jen. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you found one or two meaningful nuggets of information to make your day better. If you think there's value in what we do, please take a moment to tell another friend, family member, or caregiver. We'd love to hear from you at forourspecialkids@gmail.com. You can send in a question, a comment, a topic that you'd like to learn more about, or if you'd like us to highlight a certain person, please send that information to us. It makes our show so much better and so much more valuable for you. Our Facebook and Instagram handle is For Our Special Kids. And finally, remember to witness the wonder and the wisdom within yourself and others. Until next time.